a trans doesn't remove anything or doesn't change anything. I'm still human like you. We are all human beings.
Get to me, Alan, man. Min wadi mi yiddem ko antan holli mi ko jidin mi oduna wadi mi yiddem.
In the cold light I live to love and adore you. It's all that I am, it's all that I have. In the cold light I live, I only live for you. It's all that I am.
During the COVID-19 pandemic is when I had a heartbreak. I had a lot of depression because as I could wake up to get ready and go back to bed.
People don't understand the existence of transgenders. So there is a lot of hatred that has led to homophobic attacks.
So open up my eyes to a new life. I wandered round your darkened land all night.
In Uganda, we barely have very minimal data on trans people or no data at all in regards to trans people. As a trans movement, we need to create partnerships beyond national movement.
There would be time, but in the cold light I live to love and adore you. It's all that I am, it's all that I have. And in the cold light I live, I'll only live for you. It's all that I am, it's all that I have.
In Uganda, sex work is considered illegal and therefore women involved in this trade are not included in the mainstream health plan. This not only limits them from accessing information, but also hinders their access to health services, considering that they operate under legal, cultural, and social constraints. The illegality of the industry makes sex workers vulnerable to exploitation as they are not protected under the law. Although the homosexuality law was called off due to limited quorum, transgender women, transgender sex workers, and their associates have continued to experience mob attacks in the streets. Transgender women attacked by the public have been scared to report them to police, leaving them unable to seek redress.
My body is full of scars coming from violence that's from people and the people we work with. People don't understand the existence of transgenders. So there is a lot of hatred that has led to homophobic attacks.
The police failure to investigate abuses for transgender women has led to impunity being tolerated and propagated by the state.
People were planning, like for police, they have a feeling that gay people and transgenders are funded by Europeans. So they were targeting us to get money. And whenever they would come, curfew, they arrested me more than 7 times in curfew. But just, you're crossing the road, it is just 7, but they've parked the car there. Never could take a call.
My name is Juliana Sox Morena. I prefer calling me Anna. I am a trans woman, sex worker from Uganda. I reside in Wakiso district.
Greystone Mugoberezi. I'm 23 years. I'm from Jinja district.
I go by names of Nana Miraz. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Barara.
Nakache Sierra. I'm a transgender woman sex worker. I'm a feminist. I'm an SRHR practitioner and I'm 26 years of age and I stay in Chisasi Chanja.
I'm a attached to Trans Alliance and a Foundation Uganda as the team leader or country coordinator.
I'm working with Lived Realities Uganda.
I'm attached to Trans Advocacy Initiative Uganda, and I happen to be the founder and executive director of that organization.
I'm currently attached to an organization called Trans Youth Initiative Uganda, and I'm the executive director. Trans Youth Initiative Uganda is a rural-based organization that advocates for the rights of rural transgender youth women, transgender youth sex workers, and gender diverse youth in Western Uganda. And our work strives to work on repressive laws that affect rural transgender people and gender diverse people. Furthermore, we work on ensuring that trans people have access to equitable, comprehensive, healthy care friendly services.
We work with trans women. I'm a trans woman. We work with trans women. We do advocacy. We fight for human rights. We fight for transgenders' rights. And we provide health services to transgenders, and my home works as a safe house, safe house to transgenders that lack shelter.
The nature of the work that my organization does is basically into advocacy, human rights, and a bit of HIV. So what we're basically doing is we are using theoretical and practical applications to help us break through the mainstream social justice system of Uganda, whereby we train people how to use social media like WhatsApp, Instagram, and Twitter to actually spread awareness or create awareness on issues affecting the trans movement or trans people as a whole. The other thing we're doing is we are creating programs actually that are looking at inspiring transgender people and gender diverse persons into taking interest into leadership roles, basically to help us have entry points when we decide to take lead into policy change, when we decide to challenge policies, and basically also have entry points in various ministries like gender and health.
We've tried to seek for medical services because before Jinja, there were no friendly services in Jinja. So we went and met some health workers and health officials, asking them to provide health services to transgenders without stigma.
Yeah, I think the greatest challenge to the transgender women locally within Greater Masaka region, but also nationally, has been body anatomy, where they're always defined in wrong bodies in the so-called normal within the community than who they embrace themselves. You know, we get to look at most times whereby they get to look at a person within a manly body, goes to a health facility, and then they express themselves as she, and then they're always called they're mad, you know. Who are you? Come on, how come that you said you are she, yet you're in a manly body? So it's all about defining them wrongly than who they are. I think that's the greatest challenge. They're not understood. Their body anatomy is always defined by the so-called normal, that a boy is supposed to have a penis and beards and all that, and a woman is supposed to have breasts, vagina, name it, and a big bum. And then if you go to a health facility and they see you in this boy's body, but you express yourself as a woman, they'll be like, you're confused, you deserve prayers, and you deserve to be liberated. Yeah, so I think body anatomy of the transgender women is not understood at all.
People notice a trans person fast than even I can go out with a gay person and they will never notice a gay person, but then they will easily notice a trans person. So I feel that kind of, being the face of the entire community has contributed to more challenges.
We basically either have very minimal data that is not verified or no data at all in regards to trans people. So for me, it's a very big problem for me as a trans person because I do not get the health care that I need because government cannot acknowledge that trans people exist when there is no data. Government cannot implement or pass laws or policies that favor trans people when they do not know the exact number. They do not know how to plan for us as women. And for me, it is a very huge problem because even us in the donor funding space, we do not know how to approach donors if we do not have the numbers. The numbers are very crucial in my community.
For the first time in my life, I've never been this scared. And I was like, I remember back then in March 2020, I had a lot of plans and I thought they would go as I had planned them, but then when they initiated a lockdown, I was like, okay. I remember those first weeks, I would say 3 weeks, I was really down as a person. I even reached an extent of switching off my phone. I didn't want to talk to anyone because I was like, I'm tired of this. And then I seeked for like counseling from someone, and they helped me because I really had a lot of plans for 2020, but then they all cancelled. They were all cancelled, and to me it was really bad because it's really like it was the first time, as I told you, to go under depression, and really depression is real.
People don't understand the existence of transgenders. So there is a lot of hatred that has led to homophobic attacks. I personally, in the process of doing activism in the work, I'm a church boy who sings. I do a lot of singing. But I have faced several attacks. One day I was at a crusade, I was trying to sing, and in the process of singing, the pastor came and stopped me, got a microphone and declared and said, "This one is a homosexual." Immediately as I was sloping from the pulpit, the congregation attacked me. They beat me up badly, and I'm having a lot of scars.
During the COVID-19 pandemic is when I had a heartbreak. I had a lot of depression because as I could wake up to get ready and go back to bed. Basically, you wake up and get ready to go back to bed. You want to do the makeup, but you're not going to do the makeup because who are you going to put on the makeup for? You want to go to a nice restaurant, but all restaurants are locked. And the fact that in the communities we stay in, we're not embraced. We are looked at as confused elements, disasters. So the moment you're walking out to purchase something at the shop, it is triggering a lot of past events in your life. So I ended up having a bit of depression and stress plus a bit of anxiety, and I had to access psychosocial support and mental health sessions at Icebreakers Uganda.
We find a lot of challenges in giving services, and our community members who are transgender persons also go through a lot, specifically because they are easily identified as different in the society where we live in, which is marked with a lot of stigma and discrimination. Whenever a transgender person goes out there, they are easily identified. My appeal is organizations like RMU should actually keep advocating. Advocacy is a long-term thing. It's not like a one-off. It should continue to advocate together with other organizations and partnerships and allies to actually push forward for better environment for a transgender person in Uganda to exist and survive.
The government said no more meetings. So how could you start and go for, let me go hold a meeting? So all that affected us, and then there was a lot of, redirecting funds to COVID-19 other than our issues. Because fine, COVID-19 was here, but then it doesn't mean that violence against trans people stopped. It just even increased. So it kind of, triggered everything, and it was like, I feel COVID-19 was an eye-opener to everything. The violence we are facing before was even now double. Issues of, most trans people don't have secure jobs, those that pay, sick leave, or those who pay, even if you're off, they pay you. Most of them are in informal sector, and they work as sex workers. So this affected a lot of them. You couldn't even sell sex. You couldn't go on the street and maybe be like, I'm looking for a client. You couldn't go anywhere.
So the interventions that need to be taken to support nationally the transgender women within the country is one, psychosocial support sessions, because we all know that our mental health got affected negatively, where we saw an increase in the depression because most of them lost their jobs. Most of them were evicted from their homes because they couldn't support with the rent. They lacked food to eat. So all these challenges put them into different mental health disorders. That is depression, stress, anxiety. So we need to provide with them psychosocial support sessions that can support them, to know that as much as COVID is there, but life has to go on. How do you hustle within the pandemic to see that you make ends meet? That's number one. And also, of course, when they get to see other colleagues who have gone through the same lifestyle that are encouraging them, they get to meet up doctors, counselors, to provide with them strength, inspirational talks. It will strengthen, it will empower them to see that they get to move on and they get to hustle again to make ends meet. Number two, there are some who are still under the shelter and they need nutritional support, because we know that not all jobs have called back their employees 100%. No, because we've seen where some companies, they only call back 25%. Now you can imagine, and most of the transgender women, they do informal jobs, meaning most of them have not been called back to jobs. So they still need support of nutritional support, the daily food, to see that they're able to have something to eat, most especially those who are in the shelters, because there are those who are hosting the shelters. Number three, they need empowerment programs such as skills like hairdressing, tailoring. We saw much as we were under lockdown, but those who had skills like hairdressing, they would work from their houses, Now, like me, myself, Mumbai, I would go to my hairdresser and they make my hair. So if we get to empower them with these skills, they get to have a second-hand job to do. Not like my hips, we have yet fellowship. So if such a fellowship is funded and it empowers more transgender women, they get to have a second-hand job to do. It will be really great for them to support their lives.
I think violations against transgender persons have not only started during COVID-19. I believe that COVID-19 exacerbated the inequalities against all communities, against all marginalized persons, because most transgender persons, as well sex workers, they live on sex work as one of their ways of livelihood. So sex workers were among the persons who really suffered because their source of livelihood was cut. So now, if most transgender women are sex workers, they were not spared during the COVID-19, of course. And of course, that is one issue, that is one angle. But the other angle is that as much as we have progressed in terms of advocacy, in terms of activism, in terms of really reducing the cases, the arrests and against transgender persons, our society has not evolved to this extent. So there's always a backlash of, we have challenged the bad laws in court, but the society has not evolved to that extent to recognize transgender persons as persons that are like other persons, that should be treated like other persons. So that is the only explanation I would probably give. COVID-19 took the world by storm. No one was prepared. No one saw it coming. And I can only say that it exacerbated the already bad situation that the transgender women and really women generally have been facing. So imagine a transgender person being forced to go back to live with their families, to see their perpetrators, to see their chief wounders because you are not allowed, you are supposed to be, the curfew laws way that you're supposed to be at home. Most transgender women and most transgender people are really in this country are homeless. They usually run away from their homes. The moment they get to discover or come out and recognize their identity as transgender people. So most of them live with friends, most of them live with families, with colleagues, and most of them have been living on the streets and in makeshift homes. So during COVID-19, you heard of the youth who were arrested because they were staying at a shelter and because there were many. So because most transgender women or transgender persons are homeless and the COVID-19 forced everybody to go back home, transgender people who didn't have homes had to devise ways of how to live.
Initially, Trans Youth Initiative Uganda started as a temporary crisis shelter in 2017, and we decided to turn into an organization and make the crisis shelter a program of its own. And here are people who have been facing violations of all kinds, let it be human rights violation, let it be abuses, let it be any sort of violence. They come seek refuge at our office.
Through COVID, we got to understand that the trans community needed what they call movement building. We looked at the trans movement as a movement that is not united. If we were united, certain things during the COVID-19 pandemic would have been solved. For example, food scarcity. You realize everyone that was giving out food, was offering shelter, was doing it as their own organization, so only their members were benefiting. So what about the members of the people that were not benefiting? So we realized as a community that we need to be united, which is a very good thing. We need to work together to create change and impact and better our communities.
Time went on as leaders and we lost control because we had no resources to fight for our members. It really affected us. And one of the girls on the panel said it, and she said, money passed through the network. The monies that passed through the network couldn't reach these people, the grassroots organization that didn't have resources. So you end up like most of the trans women, sex workers that on a grassroots organization were not helped. So it ended up even, you know how TAI, Trans Advocacy Initiative, we deal with SRHR, mental health. We mind so much when it comes to mental health of our members. And then for those people, HIV integration, because we currently introduced the universal health coverage that entails equality for all and UHC for all. So we're trying to integrate it and bring into TAI members and all the transgender women sex workers at large and inform them, orient them about this whole thing, because I may give you a scenario when it comes to SRHR. There were trans women sex workers, members of TAI, that that were affiliated. They were HIV positive and were affiliated to some health facilities where they go pick their IRT. They are registered and they have their client models, but we ended up locating, it gives like the same the supply chain management. It got disconnected, it was meandered around, kept on masquerading with different things, because there were very many trans women who came from Masaka and came to town, and they were affiliated to some health facilities in Masaka, and they couldn't get their ART because they were locked down and they couldn't move. So we ended up lobbying for them, moving up and here, moving up, going down, lobbying for them to get their ART, because it doesn't mean they were affiliated, they had to pick only their ART in Masaka. It doesn't mean they should not pick their ART, because so we ended up, we had a lot of work to do as transgender women sex work leaders.
So COVID-19, caught us unaware, and as MAHIPS as an organization, it struck us hard, whereby we all know that we're working wasn't allowed. We all had to shift into working virtually. And as an organization, by that time, I remember we didn't have enough gadgets to support our working virtually. It wasn't easy. You would find that some of our staff had to walk longer journeys to come to where maybe some of us do have gadgets for working virtually, so that they're able to work, or they're able to to do their work. And also reaching our community members, sometimes it became difficult, because now there are those who had to get their PrEP refills, there are those who wanted condoms. We saw a stock out of condoms during lockdown. We saw a stock out of lubricants, and community members would get to call us day by day. We need lubricants, we need condoms, but we didn't have them because naturally there was a stock out.
Being that transgenders are not respected, they are undertaken, no one respects them. In our community, the gay people, the bisexuals think transgenders are desperate, they have no future, they have nothing to do. So as a transgender woman, when a gay man marries me and takes me to his home, I have to do everything for him. I have to be desperate. I have to be under his feet. So with that, he will disrespect me, and he will bully me. So what happens to these transgenders? To us, it is like we have no say. Even in our community, someone believes you have nothing to do. He's the one giving you money. Poverty, desperate has caused a lot of intimate violence.
The number of intimate partner violence was on the rise because transgender women had migrated. Some of the sex workers had migrated, like from Kampala to Masaka, and then for those of Masaka had gone probably to Jinja, so had gone to meet their partners or even sex work. And then guess what happened? When the COVID-19 came, the first 2 weeks they were there, started getting misunderstanding with the partners, the violence started coming out, they were battering them, because we found cases whereby a transgender woman was battered so much in Masaka because of intimate partner violence, and a man took it in a context like oli mukazi bukazi, so nino kusalirawo nino kukuba omukazi omusajja tebamuddamu omusajja. So we have a lot of feminism theory when it comes to transgender women sex workers. That's why we want to lay it and put knowledge and information with these trans women sex workers in regards of IPV and other related violences.
The first thing I'm going to talk about is donors having priorities. I really hate that. I always want donors to give organizations grants or give them chances to exhibit their work on merit, in a sense that if the project is impactful, give that project funding, not having funding priorities, because when you have funding priorities, you're limited. Most people in my community need shelter, but how many donors fund shelter? Most trans people in my community need hormone replacement therapy. Who is funding the sexual reproductive health that is beyond HIV? Who is funding the sexual reproductive health beyond condoms? I need donors to visualize and understand that once we move beyond prioritizing certain things and understanding that every issue is important because every issue has a certain aspect that it adds on to the HIV world, it adds on to the human rights world, and all other things. Then the other thing I want to talk about is donors actually need to invest more in data collection, hence research. In Uganda, we barely have very minimal data on trans people or no data at all in regards to trans people. So donors need to, in huge numbers actually, look at investing in research.
Most funding available comes with a target, and we feel crowdfunding for trans organization is really little. And we all know the situation with trans people. Most of us did complete school. I personally, I didn't complete school, but I'm running an organization. I need capacity building. I need to build my capacity to ensure the sustainability of the transgender movement.
The government, first of all, the policy makers, I know you draw those policies, but then draw those policies in consideration of even transgender women, sex workers at large, the development partners, strategic partners, and then other CSOs, the donors. We all invite you to apprehend and push the work that transgender women sex work do in our communities and even in our organization, and even we put it on Africa, in East Africa, and even the whole of the globe to be heard.
By names of Hajat Abdul Jamal Uthman. I am the Executive Director of Rainbow Mirrors Uganda. I am a transgender woman. I am a sex work activist. I am a sex worker as well. I'm a humanitarian, and I love to do work for the organization that I do. I happen to be the Executive Director of Rainbow Mirrors Uganda, which is a trans women sex work-led organization that was basically established in 2015. I'm here to just say thank you to all the partners that we have really worked with on this documentary, that have really put in an effort and have really supported us. First, I would like to acknowledge and really give thanks to the girls and the women that have really taken part, and they've chosen to use their faces and amplify the voices of transgender women sex workers in Uganda. Thank you to the Anna Foundation that is really courageous for a young lady to actually have been part of such kind of an initiative. Thank you so much to the people from the rural areas, people from Ginger, that is Lived Realities Uganda. Thank you, Gracious, for having graced this particular concept and allowed us to actually know and get to understand the context of work and how you've been affected by COVID-19. Thank you to Tai. Thank you to Mahipso. Thank you to Trans Youth Initiative, Mbarara, that you girls are strong, and we believe once we are coordinated like this, we can have a better voice for transgender women sex workers in Uganda. Thank you so much to our partner, that is Ohio Ushri, that gave us the support to actually be able to reach out, to amplify the voices and bring the voices of the sex work movement in regards to gender diversity in Uganda at one. I would like to thank other partners that actually do support the transgender women movement in Uganda. Thank you to Madri. Thank you to AJWAs. Thank you to Voice. Thank you to OSEA. Thank you to Open Society Foundations. Thank you to the Red Umbrella Fund. And thank you so much to the rest of the other partners. And we call upon donors and partners to engage and prioritize trans women programming, but also effectively manage us better. Thank you to Global Fund for Women, African Women Development Fund. Thank you so much to each and everyone, UN Women. Thank you for standing up for the cause of transgender people and trans women in Uganda. Lastly, I would like to thank the partners in country, but also at the regional level. Please, thank you so much to the African Sex Workers Alliance for having to have an inclusivity of gender diversity amongst ourselves. Thank you so much to the East African Trans Network that basically coordinates us as transgender persons. Thank you so much to Uganda Network for Sex Work-led Organizations in Uganda. Thank you so much to Alliance of Women Advocating for Change. These are partners. Thank you so much, Ubuntu Justice Law Center. Thank you so much to Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum. Thank you to everyone, each and everyone that belongs to the sex work or sexual and gender diversity community or probably movement, that this is the time that we believe we are able to amplify our voices. We love you so much. Nothing for us without us. We believe you are the power that behind us as trans women, we can be better. It's a well said. Thank you.